You're tuned in to the Spiced Up Sports Podcast, where we give you an inside look at 7-on-7 football with your host, Ben Spicer.
Hey everyone, what is up? Welcome back into another episode of Spice Up Sports Coach's Corner. We've got the man himself, James Champagne, hailing from San Antonio, joining us again here for another episode. We took a couple weeks off, but we are back and better than ever for our brand new topic this week. We're going to talk about getting and staying hungry. So without further ado, I would like to welcome Coach Champagne on with us now. It's been a couple weeks since we've recorded one, so we appreciate everyone's patience. And, Coach, I appreciate your patience. It seems like I've been all over the place the last couple weeks, but it's good to sit down and have another discussion with you. And I know I told you this just a couple seconds ago before we started recording, but happy belated birthday. You were hard at work. Tell us what's going on. You've been we've been talking 7-on-7, but you're taking on a different avenue with your coaching here over the next couple months.
Yes, sir, I am. First and foremost, I appreciate your time, your flexibility. You are a inspiration being around the world, doing something that you love to do. So I appreciate that. I am transitioning back to the fall tackle scene. It's that time of year.
Nice.
And I have the opportunity and the pleasure and the duty and responsibility to be the head coach for a 6 and 7U tackle football team in the San Antonio area,
awesome.
Northeast Converse area. So I'm forever grateful for that. It's a different organization from the Ducks, so I do 7-on-7 with the Ducks, but for my tackle team, I coach for the Venom. They are the Judson Youth Sports Federation Venom. So they are connected to Converse and they are connected to the Judson High School area. So that's what that youth organization kind of feeds into the Judson High School team. So.
Well, great. That's awesome. And that kind of ties into what we're going to discuss, on this latest episode. We wanted to introduce a new topic. We're going to talk, about getting and staying hungry as a coach and as an athlete and as a team, really. So you hear that term so often used in sports and in life, hungry. Break it down. What does it mean to be hungry?
So for me, I believe the term hungry in sports means that you're starving, means that you desire something, you feel for something, having a motto, having a motive, having a why, having a purpose for why you do what you do, whether that's a player, whether that's a position coach, a coordinator, a head coach, water person, trainer, whatever, that's pretty much it. You have to have that desire and you got to really feel what you want. So that's what hunger means to me in the sports aspect.
And it's not, it's not just, I really want to eat. You think of hungry and you think of that, but it's something that you hear a lot. I think it's like one of the buzzwords in sports now. Coaches talk about building a culture. Coaches talk about having their players be hungry. Do you feel like that's something you just have, though? Like, how you can't really coach speed. That was always a thing. People said you can't coach speed. Now we're seeing all this speed training, so I guess you can coach speed. But can you coach a kid to be hungry, or is it just a situation where you got it or you don't?
That's situation dictates. I think it's a bit of both. I feel that hunger, kids initially having hunger, I don't feel it's as strong as it was when I played. However, I do feel that it's possible to instill that hunger mentality. Kids that normally have that bite, have that dog mentality, as people say, that desire, that feel, and that purpose for doing something. That's great for a kid to initially have, but as a coach, I feel that you have to kind of know how to navigate that.
Right.
Teach that kid how to utilize that aggression in the right way. Kind of what Coach Boone said. I remember Titans. Harnessing that aggression into a team effort
Right.
to achieve victory. So having that self-control. As far as instilling, you can instill those traits of desire, those traits of identifying why I'm out here at football practice. What's my purpose out here? Even to the 6 and 7U level, you have to use different words and terminologies and metaphors and things, but it's possible. It's a doable task.
So I think it kind of correlates, with having a strong work ethic. If you're hungry, you're working hard, you're doing that extra work to get to that level you want to be, or to reach your goals, or whatever it is that you want to do. So that's why it's important for me, being hungry. How does that pertain to our last discussion in terms of having and maintaining success, and why do you feel that being hungry is important as a coach or as an athlete?
So I feel hunger is important because you won't maximize the potential of your opportunity if you don't desire that opportunity. From a coach's lens, I feel it's your duty to instill characteristics into your team and even into your players individually. You have your ultimate team characteristics, whether it's I'm going to be a hard-nosed football team or I'm going to be a strategist. And then once you do that, you have to go down to the lower levels to every individual player, not making it, it's about or it's about me, but you have to build those individual relationships. There's some kids where you can get animated with them and make them an example, out there on the football field. But there's others where you have to be like, hey, go to them where people can't hear, but go to them in public. Pull them on the side on the field, pull them in the game field, and just pull them close and say, hey, man, you messing up, or hey, you need to tighten up.
Right.
You know what you're doing. So it's just about knowing your players. You have to identify and express the expectation up front, and then you have to demand and consistently enforce the expectation, even when it seems painful, even when it seems repetitive, even after success. So that's how I feel about that.
So being a coach, how does that work as a coach? What do you have to do in order to do that? And then how do you get all your other coaches on that same page and that same level of having the same amount of hunger?
So you have to address the elephant in the room from the beginning, and that goes to tryouts, that goes to on the youth level, the first days of conditioning, the first days of install. You have to express what your expectation is. And for me as a coach, one of my expectations is hungry mentality. We want to teach the kids to give energy while they're out here. Being out here is not enough. And we even tell our 7U kids that, being out here at football practice isn't enough. You have to work harder than the person that's next to you. You have to run faster. You have to run harder. You have to go through the drills with a little bit of mean streak. So you got to really you got to express it from the get-go, and you have to enforce it. It's so it can come off as painful. I'm telling you from experience. It's even with my 14U, 7U, 9U, 12U, I would go home and I would be kind of sad, kind of borderline depressed a bit, saying, dang, I was really hard on that kid. Or, hey, I really put those kids through hell through practice today.
Yeah.
But it's for a greater good. And I feel that, am I perfect? Absolutely not. But I feel that the point gets across. And most importantly, I feel that whatever I do, whatever my actions are, they're respected by the kids and the parents. The parents tell me that voluntarily. The kids that are able to text and have their own phones, they stay in contact with me. I had so many kids that called or text me happy birthday. I had kids who didn't have phones. They got on their parents' phone and texted me. You know what I mean?
That's awesome.
I had a kid, he's on my He's in the same organization I coach with for tackle, but he's 9U. But I haven't coached him physically on my team since basketball the year before COVID. So 2019, he wrote me a card from school, like a marker, a card. And I had one of my 14U kids. He had his mom bring him to the store, got me a card, and got me a Chick-fil-A card. I got another kid, even though my birthday was yesterday, he's adamant in telling his mom, he's a 12U kid, hey, coach, what's your favorite team? I'm going to the mall to get you something. I've been working hard just to get you a gift. So you don't do it for those rewards. You don't do it for the pat on the back or the good job, coach. But those things, in my opinion, reflect that, hey, as painful as it may come off or as cruel as it may come off, these kids respect the expectation that I've expressed and enforced.
Yeah, absolutely. It's nice to get that positive feedback and to have it obvious that not only do they respect you, but they care about you too. I've kind of relate to this, I've never coached, but when I was in college, I worked as a manager for UPS. And so I had two different areas that I worked. One pretty much did their own thing. They did things for themselves. They had been there for longer than I had even been born, some of them. So I didn't really have to coach them up. They knew what they needed to do. So I just stayed out of their way. And they were hungry. They were like a well-oiled machine. Basically, I just made sure they didn't kill each other, And so I had another area that was all college kids. And that was the area where it was, okay, how are you guys doing? Are you okay? I had to stay on top of them to make sure things got done. So I think that kind of correlates to, managing different age groups or experience levels and things like that. And that kind of takes me into what I want to talk to you next. You've coached a lot of different age groups. So how do you make sure as you get ready to be with these 7U kids that they've got the same hunger as maybe your 14U, or do you even approach it like that? It's so different for them at such a young age, like it is, when I worked in UPS. It's different experience levels and things like that for those that have been there longer or have played longer or have been around the game longer. So how do you keep the younger kids hungry like the older kids, or do you even do that?
So I like to be unique and different. A lot of people have that mindset of, they're so young, you can't be as hard on them as you were with 14U because they're high school. But age is nothing but a number. When you get into life, no one's gonna care how old you are and things of that nature. So I don't take away that approach. I don't eliminate that approach of, I'm not going to teach the 6 and 7-year-olds to be hungry because they're too young.
Right.
What I like to use is modify. Modify is change. So use the same approach, the same mindset, but you have to modify it to their level. 6 and 7, it's a huge challenge because you're competing with their attentiveness. Right. You're competing with distractions, like on the field, distractions from their parents, distraction from the grass, distraction from the person in front of them. You're competing with their inexperience, but it's a doable task. And the doable task is to instill toughness into a 6 and 7-year-old kid. Right. How do you do that? Do the push-ups with them. When you're showing them the drill, race them, race them during the drill. Do the ladder drills with them. Do the cone drills with them. I'm talking about when they are physically going through the line and going through the motions. Show them how to give energy. How do you show them how to do energy? By doing the drills with them. By even though they're 6 and 7, it's okay that they messed up. They're 6 and 7. It's their first time doing the ladder drill. No. All right, hey, we're gonna start back. Yep. We'll do the same thing 20 times,
coach them up
until we get it right.
Right.
So you have to take those small baby steps. And then lastly, with that, I use with my 14U kids, I always used to tell them that I don't coach 7-on-7 players. I coach football players. So although you're not tackling in the games that I coach you with, but guess what? You're gonna go to high school. And when they ask what you did in the spring or who did you play for 7-on-7 or who did you play for in the summer, you're going to say my name. And you're going to say the organization I coach with. And then I'm going to have to come to the school with a visitor pass and see what you're doing. Right. Are you doing what right looks like or not? Because everything you do is a representation of me. Absolutely. Everything I do away from you is a representation of you as a player. So with my 6 and 7-year-olds, I use that same approach, but I translate it to being a student of the game in the ways of a 6 and 7-year-old. You can show them what a B gap is. Right. It's doing the alphabets, A, B, C, D. You can show them what the 3-hole is. You know, you can show them what the 6-hole is. You can tell them that, hey, even numbers are to the right, odds are to the left. And it's kind of showing them education too, which can translate to school, translate to the home. So I've been able to do that with a variety of my age groups, 6, 7, 9, 12, 14, 10U, doesn't matter.
And at that age, I feel like you're more trying to build a love for the game of football.
Yes. And you build that love, in my opinion, you build that love by being a student of the game.
Yeah.
Anybody can run fast. Anyone can catch. Anyone can throw the ball. All kids are fast and in shape at that age. So you have to in my opinion, you have to build a love in the game through the education piece. And that education piece will create that desire to continue to do that. That hunger to, okay, I know what that drill is. Oh, I remember that drill with the 3 cones. I did that last year, or I did that last week.
Right.
So you can empower these young 6 and 7-year-old humans to know something simple as, I play linebacker, rather than, oh, I'm the one that hits the guy with the ball. No, you can say linebacker. You know, don't put Eric Thomas, a motivational speaker. He would say something on the lines of, don't put your limitations on me. So because of their age or because of their inexperience, or this is their first year playing tackle, I'm not going to put limitations on a kid and call the linebacker position Superman. No, once they know what linebacker is, or once you have gone over it 2-3 times maybe to get them over the hump for that game, you can probably call it Superman. But what do you do in practice? You revise. You go over the things that need to be corrected.
Right.
You know, so it's kind of a give and take relationship, in my opinion.
Now,
approach, I should say.
I don't necessarily think this is something that you deal with at the younger age, but certainly as you get older, and even into college and the professional ranks, and this isn't just, a football thing, but in life, complacency, man. That's to me, that's the worst thing that we have to deal with as people, is complacency. Whether that be, you reach a certain point in your life and you just kind of coast from there and you don't go as hard as you should, or whatever that may be. I think complacency is such a big problem. So as a coach, as a player, what do you have to do to make sure you continue to stay hungry and you're not getting complacent in your work and your practice and in games and things like that?
So for me, as a coach, and as an adult and a person, community leader, personally, I have to stay the course. How do I stay the course? As hard as it may be, you have to stay on your routine. You got to make a routine. You got to identify the routine, and you have to stay on that routine. You can't eliminate. Can you modify and change? Yes, but not to the point to where you get comfortable. You can't get comfortable. You can't get complacent, and trying to eliminate things out of your routine will increase that opportunity to be complacent or comfortable. It doesn't matter, man. I mean, it's hard. Like, hey, birthdays. Yeah, my birthday was on a Tuesday. That was my second day of conditioning camp. I could not miss conditioning practice.
Right.
Even though I didn't have a lot of interaction with just my age group, I couldn't miss conditioning practice because it was my birthday. If it's Christmas, I don't expect you to go to the gym 3 hours a day, but If you said you wanted to do something, you might have to do a home workout. You know what I mean? If
Right.
you want to be a scientist, you can't spend 5, 6 hours on Christmas Day, but you need to read a simple science article while you're in the bathroom. You can, and that's the modified piece rather than
Right.
eliminating it completely out your routine. And when you do that as a coach, when you do that as an adult, and when you do that as a community leader, you are being an example to the kids that you are responsible for. And to me, that makes me feel like you are a transparent leader, because you're showing and modeling, physically modeling to these kids that, hey, this coach, he goes through things too. Yes, he's hard on me. He gets on me for every single detail, but you know what? He's out here with a torn ACL and he's still coaching us in a wheelchair, or he's still coaching us with crutches and he's sitting in a chair. So he's not just yapping and yelling, but not practicing what he's preaching.
Absolutely. Well, this is another great topic of discussion, and I appreciate you again for your time. And I think this is something this might be one of the most important things we've talked about yet, because staying hungry, regardless of we're not just talking about football, and I'm guilty of this too. You have to have that type of mentality to succeed in life. You can't get complacent, and you always have to be looking for ways to change and evolve. And people talk about how important it is to have a routine, but I also think it's beneficial to mix things up. That way you don't get, set in your ways, and you don't get tired of the routine that you go through every day.
I was about to say that you gotta modify. You gotta find new motives. You have to find new whys. You have to find new purposes. Whether that's, you might have to podcast. You might have to write in a journal and keep it to yourself. That's the way. Those are ways where you can be honest, honest, and be like, hey, I do mess up. Hey, I do feel tired. Nobody's perfect. Nobody's a machine. Doing routines suck. Doing the right thing when nobody is watching, it does suck. Doing the right thing all the time when you see other people around you not doing the right thing, it sucks. But it has to be done, especially if your why holds weight and your purpose holds weight. So that's what I teach my kids, that you gotta be hungry on this football field, but guess what? That being hungry on this football field will translate you at home with your chores. If you got 5 siblings, you better be the best bed maker in the house. You better be the best bed maker on your block. That's how serious it is. If you got that mentality for making up a bed, you're gonna have that mentality on your exams. You're gonna have that mentality when you are applying for a summer internship. There's 5 people that applied, but there's only 3 slots. What's gonna be the reason why your name is still in the stack to get selected? So there can only be one number one. There can only be that specific number. If it says 3, just because 5 people applied, those 2 people that were at the bottom bracket, they're not just going to give it to you because you applied. Nobody's going to care about that. So what are you doing to separate yourself from your peers?
Yeah, there's always a bigger picture involved.
Yep.
I think that's important to keep in mind. Kids, if you're listening, there's always a greater purpose, and you might not see it now, but when you get old like me and Coach, you're definitely going to look back and realize that your coaches weren't lying to you, and they actually did care about you as you get older.
Absolutely.
Well, hey, appreciate you again for joining us. We'll have a newer episode coming out sooner than we did this episode. Again, we apologize for that. But, Coach, as always, appreciate your time and looking forward to how the season goes on the tackle side of things for you. We'll get an update from you on the next episode on how things are going.
Yes, sir. And I'll get with you offline and maybe see if get with you offline and try and get you connected with that organization, and maybe you can come by one weekend for all the age groups and try and do some work and get that FaceTime with those kids.
Absolutely.
So I'm looking forward to it.
Awesome. Well, we'll talk to you soon for another new episode of Spiced Up Sports. Until then, thank you guys for tuning in and have a great rest of your day.